So The Twisted Tree is written by Rachel Burge. I've already said that. Hi everyone. This week I'm reviewing The Twisted Tree by Rachel Burge. It's a very pretty cover. I do like it a lot actually. I'll try and avoid spoilers as much as possible, but in my opinion there's not too many twists, so I'll probably be okay. I would still recommend reading the book first and then coming back to this video though. So The Twisted Tree is about a teenage girl called Martha who has the ability to feel people's memories and emotions when she touches their clothing. With her turbulent home life, she spontaneously visits her grandmother in Norway because they're very close, and when she gets there she begins to unravel a lot of family secrets. So I actually got this book in a book subscription box a couple of years ago that I never got around to reading until recently. But my initial thoughts were a very pretty cover, and I know that's one of the major rules that you're not meant to break, but I do it all the time. For the story, The Twisted Tree had some really interesting concepts behind it. It can basically be boiled down to a modern retelling of Norse myths. As soon as I realised Martha was missing an eye, I put that together with the title of the book, The Twisted Tree, and realised we were talking about Odin. I thought this was a really great idea to explore. It's a bit of a breakaway from the usual retellings of fairy tales and fantasy. The descriptions of the world were very good, although the whole story takes place almost exclusively in the grandmother's cottage. The rare times that the characters were outside, I could almost feel the cold, and I had the feeling the whole way through that the cottage was a safe, cosy place in basically a frozen wasteland. I know that Norway is not a frozen wasteland, by the way, this is just my impressions from the book, okay. So on to the parts I didn't quite like as much. This is the first time in a while that I read a YA novel, and I'm 28 now, so I don't really count as a young adult. I'm just an adult. Because of this, I think I didn't connect as heavily with the story as I probably would have done as a teenager. I found the romance quite unnecessary. My thoughts on romance in storytelling is probably a whole other video by itself though. The dialogue was relatively clunky. The book had a bad habit of spelling out exactly how the characters were feeling, like a lot. I know that show don't tell is a complicated rule, but I think in this instance it could have been used a lot more liberally than it was. Because it wasn't, most of the character descriptions came from observations from the characters themselves. For example, there's a point where Martha literally looks in the mirror and narrates her appearance, which, because of the lack of descriptions around anyone's emotions, I didn't feel too attached to anyone. It was hard for me to visualise any of the characters beyond that Martha has a missing eye and the guy is a goth. For a story that centres itself around feeling people's emotions and memories, I feel like that could have been utilised a lot more than it was. When characters tell me that they're angry, that doesn't make me feel angry for them, it just tells me something and I move on very quickly. But if you tell me that the characters' teeth are clenched, they've got fists at their side, that makes me feel a bit angrier on their behalf for them, but I just didn't get into it because he just kept telling me they were angry and okay. However, if you are a young adult, if you like reading young adult novels, if you're into retellings of old stories and a little bit of romance, this is probably right up your alley. And I know I just spent the last few minutes slating it, but I did finish it, and most of my criticisms were based around the fact that the book is aimed for a much younger audience than myself, so because of that, I'll give it 6 storms out of 10. The only twisted thing about this video is if you watched it this far and you haven't subscribed. But thank you for watching if you have come this far. Please do subscribe if you liked it. Leave a comment, let me know what your thoughts are. Next week I'll be reviewing Lovecraft Country by Mark Ruff, which has actually now been adapted into a TV show on HBO and is the whole reason I read the book. Let me know if you read it in the comments below, and I'll see you next week.